Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains Podcast.
Let's go. Things have been pretty nice, pretty beautiful. Yeah. We had that crazy windstorm. What did you guys have down there?
Sunday it was windy. I'll have to say it was also windy on Saturday when I was up in the Catskills, hiking around. So there definitely was some wind. Got cold down here. No snow. I did some yard work on Sunday, getting ready for spring and summer. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot of people are. The snow's kind of gone somewhat where we are. Up in the mountains, it's losing its integrity every day, and we're looking forward to it. We might have one mass burst. We don't know, but today it was 55 degrees and sunny up here.
When you say the snow is losing its integrity, you almost make the snow sound like it's political, like a politician. That snow has no integrity.
It wants to keep its grip on everything.
I'm never voting for that snow.
Well, I don't know. You love snow.
Yeah. I grew up in snow country.
I know. We both did. Times have changed. It's great, but we had a great year. Great year of snow. Ted, you could have been out enjoying yourself skiing and stuff like that, you used to.
I still might get out, and get a day or two in before the season's over. But then I say that almost every year, and I don't get out. Especially if you read over those prices, skiing at Wyndham. I can't afford that and pay you to be on the podcast at the same time.
That's true. That's true. I was thinking here, you're going to catch a ride from Blaze all the way up to Wyndham and just ski down and just be like, listen, I got my priorities straight and I'm taking a ride from Blaze.
Yeah. Maybe I can double duty and I'll call in a DEC rescue. They'll come and get me with the helicopter, and then I'll just tell them, look, on your way out, just drop me off at the top of Wyndham and I'll ski down.
Wouldn't that be something else? That's why I think I would be a fun rescue, is I would just be like, hey, what peak are we going over? I need to finish this.
That's like a new thing. We'll have people rate themselves on how fun of a rescue they would be. Well, if you had to rescue me, I don't think I'd be such a good rescue myself.
I don't know. Come on. I think you would be a good sport.
Have you ever been hauled away in an ambulance?
Yes.
Okay.
Several times, to be honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. I was out of whack, but I was pretty funny. I guess when Jessica said that I went under amnesia one time, that I was chatting with my surgeon and stuff of who of my top 5 people that I could cheat on my wife with, like celebrities and stuff. Like, what do they call it? Passes.
They call that a one-way trip to divorce court.
Of course, but it's like your free pass. And I checked with my surgeon, and when he came out, I think it was for my hernia. When I came out of it and stuff, he talked to Jessica, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we talk about that all the time." I was just like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's Isla Fisher, the redhead from
don't know
Wedding Crashers."
Oh yeah.
I love her.
Don't know her. No.
But that took a weird turn. All right, so Ted, it says breaking news, but not really. But it came out a couple days ago. But this is pretty huge. I thought it was pretty huge, even though I'm not from the Hudson Valley area.
Maybe it's breaking news because it's about Breakneck Ridge.
Breakneck Ridge. Breakneck's Breakneck news.
It's something. It's just news.
So Breakneck Ridge Trailhead and Wilkinson Memorial Trailhead along the Breakneck Ridge train station are closing for approximately 2 years on April 21st. Now, there is construction set to begin on the Breakneck Connector and the Bridge Trail, which will make the area safer for hikers and motorists, organize parking, and bring much-needed improvements such as restrooms and trash and recycling receptacles to the area. For alternative hikes and to learn more info about the project, it says view this place, but I'm going to say cut that out and go to hikethehudsonvalley.com. That is where you want to go to get some good information.
That's right. You can find out the best alternative hikes rated by cameras where you can go hiking for the next 2 years.
Yeah. And some places not even see a soul.
Yeah. So could you just imagine if we got a similar announcement that said that for the next 2 years, you can't hike Giant Legend Panther because they're doing some big improvement at the hairpin turn and down in Fox Hollow. So that area is going to be closed.
Yeah. One of the most,
you say, yeah. I say that sucks. Wouldn't it?
Fox Hollow is amazing.
Well, I'm saying, no, they closed both. You can't hike Panther or Giant Ledge because they're doing a 2-year improvement project, right? What if that was like you have a 16-year-old kid and that was your hike to do like Breakneck once a month, and now for the next 2 years? Well, maybe that's just the train access. Maybe you can get like a Uber to drop you off or ride your bike there or something. But I think 2 years is a long time for an improvement project like that.
It is. And, I heard that this was rumors that you could approach it from different areas. Breakneck Ridge, like you can approach it from another area, even though it's, I wouldn't say it's significantly longer, is it?
Yeah, well, we learned from Mike, Hike the Hudson Valley, that it's like a directional trail. There's one way up, multiple ways down, something like that. And then I'm sure there's other ways to get there. Probably a good idea is to use one of those things. They call them, what are they, with all the lines on them? The paths that you can hike. They have other lines that show you how steep things get. What's that called?
Man, that's tough.
What's that called?
I haven't used those in years.
I've seen one of them. Yeah, I was almost going to buy one time.
I think I got one from SAR like a bunch of times ago, but I've never looked at it.
Yeah.
A map. That's what it is.
A map. That's right.
That's what it is.
I never opened mine up because I didn't know where to put the batteries in or how to charge it. So I just tossed it.
So I was looking on Mike's, the hikethehudsonvalley.com to see if there's any other alternatives, just to get around that area. And, it's from a lot of, I got a lot of messages from like my friend Todd Bold, from Henry de la Vega about this hike, and of course it's going to have a big impact. I mean, this is a lot of people said this is the Mount Everest of New York City / the East Coast, that just there's a line waiting to get to the top on the weekends.
Well, yeah, can you imagine? It has now it has like a makeshift train stop, which apparently doesn't let enough train cars sit along the platform for people to load and unload. And I think part of the project is to extend the platform so they can offload more people. But a hike that a train pulls right up to is going to see a ton of traffic.
Yeah, it looks like, definitely, I'm looking at the maps and stuff like that. There's different areas you can approach it from Beacon. I would say Beacon is the only place that you can approach it from the other way, but it makes it like 2 to 3 times longer with switchbacks, but you get on Beacon Mountain and a bunch of other places that you could see a bunch of good areas, but once again, that requires further proof that you got to get off the train, and then you got to access the town of Beacon and then walk up over there. So like you said, it's just like, it's not like you're getting off of the train and then just hiking up. You got to find alternative means to get to that trailhead on the other side of Beacon and stuff like that. So that's going to be a big impact, especially one of the most popular, probably the most popular trail in the Hudson Valley.
Probably.
Is this for the greater good? And this is for the greater good. I got to admit, just even hearing one of the things I love to hear is trash cans and restrooms. So now people get off the train, they have a place to go before they go out in the freaking wild and leave their trash and stuff like that.
Yeah, but so are they going to get emptied?
I hope. I would think so. The most popular trail in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, well, you would hope so, but how often, like even in a shopping plaza, how often do you see trash cans overflowing? And there's like staff there all the time to empty them. Yet you've got overflowing trash cans, trash blowing around. Why don't we just encourage people to not only pack out what they pack in, just take the stuff home. Take it home with you.
True. I mean, it's I'm guessing they have trailhead stewards. They have stewards up there all throughout the thing. I mean,
well, so long as it's not a federal park, they'll have trailhead stewards.
Yeah, true. Wow, that is a clear cut triggered.
Oof.
Triggered.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Speaking of triggered,
So Stosh is scrolling down to the next item, so I know how to get him to move along now. I just interject a subtle political comment.
Political. Yeah. It sucks because once again the effing country is so goddamn divided right now, and it sucks. But I got to admit, having some of these areas just be demolished to make for mining or stuff like that.
Short-term gains, that's what it's all about. I mean, you look at mining, even if it's a 25 or 50-year mine, that's relatively short-term compared to how long it took for these places to become what they are now, how long it would take them to regenerate, and the fact that I was just bitching about a 2-year shutdown of Breakneck Ridge trailhead or the train stop, but think of changing forever these national park areas.
Yeah.
Because of what? Because we don't want to stop using fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Because we, don't want to look to alternative sources. That's
ridiculous.
That's shameful. That's shameful.
Ridiculous. And, obviously Tad and I are on the same level. So, hopefully nobody gets a little triggered by us, but hey, we like our national monuments, our national places, our national beautiful places. So let's keep them that way. If you can fight in any way, donate. There's this one, I think it's called NPS, National Park Service, or some alt National Park Service. Really cool place that they have like these stickers and stuff, and it has Smokey the Bear and it says resist underneath it. Really fucking cool. I gotta admit, I will post it in the show notes. I gotta write that down just so I remember. And it's really cool. So speaking of that, so we have something that came out looks like 4 or 5 days ago. Today, somebody said, or the judge said, today we celebrate because National Park Service employees must be reinstated. So a federal judge in San Francisco had ordered the National Park Service and 5 other federal agencies to immediately reinstate employees who were fired last month, ruling that the Office of Personal Management had no legal authority to mandate their terminations. U.S. District Judge William Oslop, in scathing the rebuke of Donald Trump administration's actions, declared mass firings a violation of federal law and accused officials of using loopholes to sidestep legal protections. And in addition to 1,000 employees who were terminated from the Park Service, his order affects employees of the Departments of Veterans Affairs, Agricultural Affairs, Energy, the Interior, Treasury, who were abruptly dismissed in February. So the judge made it clear that while federal agencies can conduct layoffs, they must follow legally defined reduction in force procedures. He accused the Office of Personnel Management and orchestrating an unlawful workaround by directing departments to fire without due process. As part of ruling, ASLA barred the office for issuing any further guidance on employee terminations and ordered federal agencies to report back to their compliance with their reinstatement order. He also authorized depositions and further hearings to determine whether existing administrative appeal channels remain variable or if they have been dismantled. Now, this says for Park Service employees, the ruling represents hard-won victory. What else? So, Tad, what can you say about this? I mean, you are the smart one of this podcast. So,
what was that, Stosh? I didn't hear
you
what
are
you
the
said
smart
about
one.
me.
I'm the funny guy. You are the smart guy.
Oh.
I admit it. I will admit it.
I don't know if I think I'd rather be known as the funny guy. So
maybe you're.
I think
both,
our
right?
listeners are the smart ones. So we're just two crazy guys with microphones. What do I think about this? Well, the first thing I think is, man, I really feel for these folks that work for NPS. I feel for all federal employees that, without really much warning and without apparently any valid reason under law, according to this judge, got terminated. And I would imagine a lot of these folks are no different than many people in our country. They live paycheck to paycheck, and they want some level of job security and, a steady job, because they have financial obligations that are, pinned to how much money they make. And then next thing you know, without cause, they're given the axe. And then if this judge hadn't done what he done, imagine this coming summer, these parks, which are presumably, understaffed as it is, but without any staffing, what would come of them? Graffiti, vandalism, destruction, people abusing things, people hiking in sensitive areas where they shouldn't be. I mean, who knows what level of destruction would occur as a result. And, these parks are national treasures. And had they not been set aside and preserved over 100 years ago, what would we have today? Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, have these areas. So.
My dog was going crazy, and Theodore Roosevelt brought this back. I'm trying to think of. I don't know the exact dates, but he brought it back, the National Park Service, National Park Monuments, stuff that we treasure here. Of course, I mean mostly it's the West Coast is more of this area that is more protected and stuff, and then being that.
But why is that? Why is it the West Coast and not here the East Coast?
And then I do wonder that as well. I'd have to say that
it's because when the settlers came here, they came on the East Coast first. And so without any really local government, I mean, we were a colony to start, the crown had no incentive to preserve, lands, natural landscape and resources and things like that. They came here to take whatever they could take back. And export things. That was the big industry. So there was nothing set aside for preservation. And it wasn't until, the time of Teddy Roosevelt that our government was firmly established and we were advancing westward, that somebody like Teddy Roosevelt with that forethought said, hey, let's protect these areas because they're unique. And if we don't do it now, when will we have this opportunity? So from 1901 to 1909, he signed the National Park Service legislation.
Yeah. And then it's only expanded beyond that. And now it's just like, hey, let's not do this, and being the person that I've been to several of those national parks over on the West Coast and the national parks, up here and, the Whites and stuff like that. Like a lot of those places see so much activity, like Zion National Park. Even where I went out to the Wave, I didn't go to the Wave, but I went to a place right outside of the Wave that was the Buckskin Gulch, went on 7-mile hike through the biggest gully in the world. And just seeing the amount of people go out there, and now, of course, social media, it's just, I hate to say, this. I would say this is social media, so it's fucking stuff up. But like when people try to be cool and graffiti something or etch their name in something, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And we've learned from that. And what's crazy is I visited a place, we'll talk about this later, that has etchings in the rock of almost 100 years ago, which is insane. And now we've learned from that because we don't want to do that. We don't want to etch ourselves in a great arch that goes over Utah. That'd be like, hey, Stosh was here in 2024. Like, it's just gonna ruin it. And
I don't know. I think that'd be cool if I was out west and I saw you had etched something or tagged something. Hey, my buddy Stosh was here. So according to Google AI, the national parks have a significant economic impact, generating billions in revenue and supporting jobs through tourism. In 2023, visitor spending in communities near national parks resulted in a record high of $55.6 billion to benefit the economy and supported 415,000 local jobs. So that's in the main. I'm suspecting a lot of that money went into local mom and pop businesses, whether they're, bed and breakfasts, restaurants, outfitters, guides, things like that. People that without having to invest, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to get a business going, being near one of these national parks and providing a service that a tourist or a traveler would use or need, you can get a business going. So there's definite significant economic impact, positive impact from that.
Yeah. It's, I remember, I don't know where I read it, but I remember seeing how much is put back in the economy with these national parks, and then how much we pay to employ these people that are in these national parks. And it's a huge, of course, it's a significant amount that we get from the revenue, but then we pay people to protect these areas. And it's just, it's not worth it to cut these people. And then, of course, have vandalism or people leaving trash. And then, once again, I don't want to go to Buckskin Gulch and come back maybe again and travel even further than I did last time if there's going to be garbage everywhere, if there's not a steward taking care of it or stuff like that, or go to the Wave when they have a permit system going on to where I can be alone with my wife in there and take beautiful pictures and enjoy it, when there's going to be thousands of people, like a freaking, Catskill Falls or something. So, I mean, I understand. I don't understand with this, because Theodore Roosevelt did this to protect the beauty that we have here in America. And I got to admit, the beauty we have here is a vast but everything is so much different than a lot of other places. We have Utah, then going over to California, then going up to Oregon, Washington, then over to New York State. Everything we have is such a desert to high Sierra to, it's just crazy where, out west, or over in Europe and stuff, we have Sweden, which is known for its big mountains and its massive valley. But you can't go from a desert in Sweden to the 12,000 foot mountains like you can in Utah. So it's crazy. It's,
So there's a lot of interesting stuff on this topic and on the internet, but I'm only going to share this one detail with you, or ask you this one question, because I know, or I have a reasonable degree of certainty that you are going to get this wrong. Which national park is the park where visitors in 2023 spent the most money? Which national park is where visitors spent the most money in 2023? Stosh has got his elbow on the desk. He's putting his index finger under his mouth. He's thinking. Now he's picking his nose. Oh my God, that's gross. All right.
So
which is it? Which
I'm
national
park? Guess Acadia.
That's wrong.
Because I thought.
Come on, another one. You're going to get it wrong. It's going to be the last spot. It's not even on the top of your mind.
Somewhere in Texas.
Wrong. Nothing in Texas. Down to your last final guess, or I'm going to have to terminate you. Which park in 2023 did visitors spend the most money? I need
Catskills.
It's not a national park.
True. You said park. You didn't say national park.
In a national park.
Okay. I don't know.
2023, $2.2 billion was spent in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. See, it's not even on the West Coast or in the Rockies. It's right here on the East Coast.
Wow.
I started off by saying there's nothing here on the East Coast. Great Smoky, most profitable national park out there. So, well, there you go. National parks everywhere. They're a good thing to have.
Yeah. So that's why we got to protect it. And now this judge is doing the right thing. So let's
So we'll find out this judge is like an epic outdoors person,
Right.
Like done the Triple Crown. Yeah, he does all the 14,000 footers.
Yeah. Hey,
has a big RV.
Good for them. Good for them. So hopefully everybody, that listens to the podcast is supporting this judge and supporting the reinstatement of the park employees that we need, of course, to help these areas. And we all know we're hiking the Catskills, hiking the Hudson Valley, but these stewards are very helpful, very profitable. They help keep the nature aspect going, and that we can feel like we're away from the city, we're away from our normal life because we don't see litter everywhere and stuff like that. And they're a good time. I've never met an employee or a steward or a volunteer that I haven't been like, man, that person was a bad influence. So yeah, so everybody get on the same page. Let's do this. So had fires last year, statewide residential brush burning prohibition starts March 16th. I think it ends sometime in April, but I highly doubt that's going to happen because even though we got a great amount of snow, we are still dry all over the place. And it's crazy to think. I look at my backyard, I'm like, God damn, even though I got, over, I would say a total of 50, 60 inches of snow here, that it's still pretty dry.
Yeah, well, I got a pile I'd love to burn, but I guess I won't this year.
Same. I wanted to go out the other day, like even just to have a bonfire, like a small bonfire in my backyard. And it's just, I think there's a burn ban, right?
Yeah. I got a bunch of old tires, some interiors I pulled out of cars, some highly toxic stuff. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, do you live where I live?
That's a joke. No.
Like everybody where I live lights their like old houses on fire, and then they're like, oh damn, was that a rocket going up there? No, it was.
I grew up in a community where most people in their backyard had a burn barrel.
I mean, yeah, but that's a small burn barrel. I'm talking about like houses.
Yeah, well, sometimes that's like you'll see the local volunteer fire company will, take on a demo job where they'll set the house on fire and use it for training.
And that's fun. That's cool to watch. And if you're a small community, if they make that like kind of like an event and everybody attends.
Yeah. So if there's any suspicious fires in Oneonta, we have to check Stosh's whereabouts because you had to see the smile he had on his face when I'm talking about, fires, house fires, and putting them out.
Back when I was a kid, we had a house across from my friend's house that was like deteriorated, and they thought it was a great idea to like have a little test and burn. What did you call it again? Sorry, like a
training.
Yeah, training. So they set it afire, and we had everybody. I was a kid. We had all like the whole community came out to watch the fire department control it, and it was one of those times of when you're like, wow, these guys are like really good. They know what they're doing. They all work together, and it was a good time. It was a fun time.
Yeah, that's a tough job being a fireman. Yeah. You're always, every day could be another day you got to run into a burning building to save someone.
Another day, if you're even a volunteer, you could be, at work and all of a sudden you get a call of saying, hey, there's a house fire, 2 people.
Yeah, well, one of the interesting things out where I am, we have a lot of firemen from New York City live around here. And it's interesting to see how many of them are local volunteers. These guys go down to the city and are paid firemen down there. And then when they're up here, at home, they're on the local volunteer company.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a lot of dedication there.
Cheers to them.
Yeah.
So that's about it for shooting the shit. So don't have any more. We got the DEC report, but it wasn't nothing around here, really. It was more of up north, of course, in the Adirondacks. And there was one rescue that happened over in the Finger Lakes that I've been to that place because it was in Conkin Gully. They had to do a rescue out of the middle of a gully that was like a 400-foot cliff, and they did one of those tri-point rescues of where they had to use ropes and harnesses and stuff. Where they had I forgot what they actually call it. It's like a tripod of where. Do you know what it's called, Ted? I mean, you're a rope guy with your your sailing and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we don't set up rigs like that on a sailboat.
Okay,
you know?
I didn't know if
So,
you knew the term, but yeah, it was phenomenal.
It's kind of what they described to us is that they did over by the Catskill Mountain House when that woman fell off the cliff there this past summer.
Yeah, I'll have to post that story a little bit later because it was pretty neat. And being in one of those gullies, I've hiked in those gullies before. We actually did a backpacking trip of 2 days over through there, and just you're in this little bowl that's maybe like 200 feet wide, but it's 500 feet tall, and you're just like, what the actual? And I can't think of why a person would want to try to get themselves in a situation of where they can't be rescued out of there. They have to be rescued by rope and harness. That's just insane. But
I understand why people go explore those gullies. So
it's amazing, yeah, but
really not surprising. And it's very, in the Finger Lakes region, the central part of New York State, those are quite common.
And you lived up near there. Did you go explore there when you were a kid?
I didn't explore there when I was a kid. A good friend of mine lived in Ithaca for maybe 6 years. So yeah, I spent a lot of time going out, visiting him, walking in some of those gullies and gorges and whatnot.
Ithaca is what?
Ithaca.
Yeah, what do you call it?
Oh, I don't know. What do you got?
Ithaca is gorges instead of gorgeous. That's what they say.
I gotcha.
That's so lame.
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah. Well, you got to go back. So Ted, how about me and you and the wives hook up? They go and drink at the wineries, and then we'll go explore all those gorges.
All right. Yeah.
Sounds phenomenal.
We can do that.
Yeah.
I've done some trips in the Finger Lakes region.
It's a phenomenal area.
Yeah. I've also done a lot of sailing there, and I've hit the wineries.
What about the sailing? So you've been on probably, I'm guessing Seneca Lake because it's the longest, straightest.
I know I've been in Kuka Lake, Seneca Lake, and I think one other.
Cayuga.
So maybe Cayuga. Yeah.
Nice. Congrats. Wow. Good. I'm glad you're getting other places other than the Catskills. That's great to hear.
Well, it was a few decades ago, so
it's probably a big difference.
When I was a young person. So
yeah. So thank you once again to the monthly supporters, Chris Gerby and Jeff Jotz, Vicky Farrer, Mike S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy A., Denise W., Tom H., and Vanessa. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you for still listening to the show. Hope you still believe in us because we're having a good time, and we're having a good time talking about the Catskills. Once again, thank you to our great sponsors. So Outdoor Chronicles Photography, you can capture your love story against breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect unique bond in nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, you can discover the wilderness with Trailbound Project. Our expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offer unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned pro, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trailbound Project and unlock the great wonders of the outdoors. So, Trailbound Project has some stuff going on. It looks like March 26th, they have Women's Hiking and Safety Prep webinar at March 26th, 7 to 9 p.m. It's a Zoom. Check them out on trailboundproject.com. Bear Encounters and Hiking Workshop on March 29th. That'll be interesting. Map and Compass Navigation on April 12th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's a good one. Definitely. And Hiking Gear Essentials on April 13th as well. They definitely got a lot going on within the next couple months, so check them out. You need any information, stuff like that, get a hold of me, get a hold of Trailbound Project. If you want to get a hold of Tag, go ahead. He'll just divert it over to me. So, yeah. Tad, Hardsiders mention the podcast on one of your hikes through social media. We'll chat about it on the show. Tag us by typing at ITL Catskills Podcast on your post. You know what? I kind of screwed up because
Where's all the mentions?
Where's all the mentions?
What the hell? I mean, what's going on here?
What kind of host does this?
Yeah.
Good Lord. All right. So give me a second. Sorry. We had a last minute cancellation. So Tad and I are going through this. I got to admit, we're pretty good at this.
We're just winging it. Don't compliment yourself. Leave that up to the listeners to give us 5-star reviews.
That's
true.
Or
yeah. No reviews. I mean,
yeah, I got to admit, like, it's tough to wing it like this, especially once again. So mentions, we got a lot of mentions this week. It's pretty good. Awesome. Danny, we talked about him previously. Mighty Mischievous went to Hunter, so he got back out in the trails, and it looked like he had a great time on Hunter Mountain. Beautiful views, snow and ice everywhere. Didn't tell me, he just tagged us, so he didn't tell me what he was wearing, snowshoes or spikes and stuff. He said he did the full loop, so I'm guessing it was just spikes the whole time, but who knows. We'll hear your experience on the same area, of course, this coming thing. So also Sean, aka Long Island Hiker, did Lone and Rocky. Great accomplishment to do that by yourself in the winter. Of course, at these times especially. And this was recently, so it's probably mushy times. I would, if you do tag the show, tell us about your adventure, because I'd love to talk about it, because during these times, even during the summer and stuff like that, just to chat about it, to get a feel of what you've done. Lone and Rocky during these times is a phenomenal experience. Yeah,
at the very least, we can make fun of you. So
outrageous.
I'm only kidding. We would never do that. We're above that.
Yeah. So TJI_72 on Instagram was somewhere at a waterfall. I sent I kind of put it over our stories and see what anybody could think of it, and I couldn't tell where he was. So let me know where you were at, TJI. I think I have a thought of who that is.
It's Tony. Tony I is what he has: hiking, camping, snowshoeing, bushwhacking, land surveying, canoeing, kayaking, art, music, wandering New York.
Oh. Yeah. Could you see his hold on, and then we'll see like what you can think, because I couldn't tell where they were.
Yeah, well, let's see. It doesn't give a date on this waterfall post, but this looks like central New York to me.
Okay. So
yeah, I mean what I'm looking at actually doesn't even look like this year. I mean, there's leaves and greenery on everything. So
yeah. Okay.
Is that what you saw?
No, I'll let me forward it really quick.
Oh, then here's one: 2 days to go. Catskill Mountains.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, the story's unavailable
he's
now.
got a little Catskill or cascading fall there. Yeah, looks nice.
It's tough to determine where he was. So
yeah, that's okay. He tagged us, and that's all that matters. You could be like on the beach in Miami. Tag us.
Yeah,
we love it. We dig that stuff.
So who else would tag us other than Tom? Who's outdoors? So was that Raymond's Kill Cliffs for the worm moon? I guess that's what it's called. My wife said it was the blood moon, but that was because of the eclipse. And then went to Twin also for his 25th of the 33 winter hikes. So Tom was recently at where I was a week before him, and it looks like he had a beautiful day to explore those areas. Different conditions, I'm guessing, but I mean, he also went out and got the full lunar eclipse like I did, and I enjoyed it very thoroughly, even though I was up for only like 25 minutes, and I went back to bed and then woke up at 25 minutes later. I don't know why I went back to frickin' bed, but Tom was out doing the worm moon on Wayman's Kill Cliffs down in the Delaware Water Gap, and then went up to Twin, and then had the lunar eclipse. Did you catch any of that, Tad, or is that too early for you?
I didn't see it. I went outside to look for it. I didn't see anything.
You're lying. Absolute lie.
Yeah, it must have been a little cloud cover or something that obscured it. So
outrageous. Come on. All right. So I'm sorry to say this. As you get older, you got to enjoy stuff like this. Wake up.
I don't have that many more years. That might be the last blood moon of my lifetime.
Wake up for a comet. Wake up for a lunar eclipse. Let's go somewhere for a solar eclipse.
Wake up for work. That's about as much as I can do.
Yeah. Damn. Why you got to? Also, one thing I wanted to do before big shout outs, they give us tags. I wanted to give a big shout out to Aaron Leonard from Guardian Revival, who got promoted to Chief Executive Officer of Guardian Revival, and also Henry De La Vega, who got promoted to Program Executive Director of Another Summit. Now, Aaron Henry, we're on episode 109 talking about their program, Another Summit, who supports the show and also does free stuff, outdoor activities for veterans and first responders. And Guardian Revival does free almost anything for veterans and first responders, like music, outdoor adventures, support, therapy, stuff like that. So, Aaron and Henry, congratulations on your promotion, and definitely wish you best of luck in the future. You guys are perfect at doing this stuff, and God, that just warms my heart. Aaron was awesome. He was on the show. I don't know if you remember episode 109, and him and Henry. Aaron just was phenomenal. Henry, I've been on several hikes with him, and he is just, I have to say, insane. Henry, you're insane.
Insane in a good way.
In a trail good way. This guy, the times that I've met Henry that we've gone through, because I went on the Pemigosset loop with him and the presidential hike with him, and he's just so knowledgeable and he's so positive. He's one of those guys that is truly rare to find. And you and Aaron, congratulations once again. Thank you for supporting the show, but thank you for what you do, because supporting these veterans and first responders are a big deal, especially where we live in the Hudson Valley and the area that has the most. So get them out to Breakneck Ridge. What? Silence.
Better do it now before the 21st when they shut down.
Yeah, right.
All hiking in the Hudson Valley is coming to an end on the 21st.
Done. Everybody's got to stay in the city.
Yeah.
Can't come to Catskills, please don't.
So we can have it to ourselves.
Right. So hard ciders, buy us a hard cider on buymeacoffee.com. It's called Buy Me a Coffee, but I changed it to buy me a hard cider. So it's on our Facebook page, it's on our Instagram page. So support the show whenever you can. Also rate the show any way you can. I don't know if it's on Spotify or Apple or something like that. Just rate the show 5 stars. 4.9 and above is what we accept. I'm sorry if the intro is not the greatest. It's still pretty awesome.
Yeah, we're a work in progress. So if we don't get it this week, maybe next or the week after, just keep listening. Eventually, it'll be worth it.
Oh, I hear that Tad has turned off his background noise.
Why is that?
Because your voice sounds different.
I'm getting ready to crack my beer, so I've been waiting patiently.
You go first, and then I'll go. All right. So that's without the background noise. It sounded great. I'm going to do that with mine with the background noise on. We'll see how that came out. What do you got?
I heard nothing when you cracked yours.
Oh well.
Nothing. You got to drink that one quickly and then do another. That's how it works. New rule.
Not tonight. I got to work tomorrow. What do you got?
All right. So after my hike this weekend, I swung by the Westkill Brewery on Spruceton Road, and I picked up a 4-pack of Dead Rabbit Dry Irish Stout because, of course, yesterday was St. Paddy's Day. And I just noticed that my Dead Rabbit was put in the can on March 11th.
3/11?
March 11th. So just a few days ago. It's not even a week old.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's dark as advertised. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. That's Guinness dark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's Irish, they say.
True.
So I wonder how it tastes. Should I give it a sip now?
That's why we do this. You're not going to let it sit there, are you?
It's good.
What's your heritage, Ted?
That's a little personal, isn't it? Telling you my heritage.
I'm
Next thing you're going to want to know,
like
my hiking background and my hiking pedigree.
Well,
this is I feel like I'm on a job interview here.
We didn't discuss in the beginning what this episode is about. So this is about you, but are you Irish?
It's always about me. Okay. Yes, I am a quarter Irish, a quarter Scottish. Oh, those two ever got together.
Yeah.
And then the remainder is Italian,
Okay.
particularly Sicilian, the
Okay.
best type of Italian.
So you have like that dark beer is in your blood, so you can be like, it's all right.
Yeah, I've always liked. I can't say that I'm overly impressed with the Westkill Brewing Dead Rabbit Irish Stout. It's a little, I don't know, flat, it's lacking a little that dynamic that I was expecting. The finish,
It's dead.
yeah, maybe it is. The flavor comes to a grinding halt at the end.
Grinding halt in the middle of the road. Oh man, as Alex would say,
Yeah,
somebody became the rabbit slayer. So good. Well,
Yeah.
I'm having a good old 9-pin cranberry again. They're trying to get these off of the shelf, so it was on sale. So it's very good and from Albany.
where do you buy your 9-pin? Where do you go to buy your hard ciders?
Hannaford is where I get most of mine, and then the liquor store, the Liquor Depot, has some good cider. Sometimes they mostly have liquor, of course, but this was a nice cold 9-pin hard cider. So, and then sometimes I go when I'm swinging by, when I go down to kind of like when I hit over more towards the eastern Catskills, I can hit Van Duesens and hit something up. They usually have a good local stuff from
Sure.
Lexington and stuff.
That's it, right outside of Westkill.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people like you might hit that once in a while when you're going out, but a lot of people from the south don't hit that spot. But it's a great spot if you want to go into Hunter and get something to eat or something. Tannersville, I would definitely recommend going to get something to eat. But Van Duesens is right there. It used to be right next to the old post office.
Mhm.
It's still there. The post office is still there, but it used to be an old community store, and it's a fantastic spot. Cool guy.
Mhm.
I like
Yeah.
him.
And they have really, really good soft serve ice cream.
Do they?
Yeah.
I must have been
So-
in and out there too quick.
Oh, when you're doing like one of those real long, grinding, sweating hikes in the summer, and you're either in the Spruceton area or even at Hunter, Tannersville, it's worth this going over that way, especially it's on your way home, and get a soft serve
Mm.
from Van Duesens.
Damn.
And Mo would point out that they have real Coke there, so you can buy a real Coca-Cola with sugar.
Thank you for saying that's real Coca-Cola instead of something else. I was just like, real Coke? I'm just like, what are we dealing now? Wheeling dealing?
Well, in downtown Lexington, you can buy a lot of things.
Yeah.
Just saying.
At that
Yeah.
abandoned, at that awesome abandoned hotel that I wish they would restore.
Right by the bridge.
Yeah, that's, that I wish that place has got to be it's got to be crazy, horrible, but just imagine sitting right there on the Schoharie Creek, just
Yeah.
listen to the water.
Yeah. Problem with something like that, it's been abandoned for so long. If you wanted to revitalize it and use it again as a lodge of sorts, you'd have to make it all handicap or disabled compliant. And that's just going to be really expensive for a building like that.
Yeah.
So,
It's tough. It's a beautiful spot. It's something worthwhile to take a picture of. The old Lexington Hotel. You go from, let's say, Westkill, you head north towards Hunter, and you'll be going over the bridge. And right after the bridge is the old Lexington Hotel. Got a cool sign. It's been sitting there for decades, and it looks beautiful. Can't go inside, so just take a picture outside. People probably used to have that. It would be good to look the history of that, but I guarantee there's not much about it. So beautiful spot. Go there. Previous hikes. Tad, I could go first because mine's going to be nice, short, and sweet.
okay, do it then.
All right. So last week, I didn't go anywhere on Sunday. Windy, I wish I did, but I got to teach my goddaughter, who is, I think, 8 years old now. I got to do guitar lessons for her. So
Oh, really?
it was a phenomenal time.
Electric or acoustic?
Electric.
Oh, yeah.
She's an electric fan.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with my metal shirt on, teaching her some. The first song she learned was Dirty Deeds by AC/DC. I taught her,
Done dirt cheap.
right? I seriously was just like, I showed her and she picked it up instantly. I'm just like, this is perfect.
And then, so the next day in church, she got up and sang it for the congregation.
He deeds. Yes, I hope so. I hope so. But I did that. So today, I went up to Roman's Nose over in Middleburg, New York, right about Schoharie County. I would say Cobleskill area if you're looking. Beautiful, easy, very easy, probably like 1.6 miles, not even, to the summit and back, 500 feet of elevation gains. Beautiful, top of the line views overlooking the Schoharie Valley. You can see some of the northern peaks of the Catskills. Northern peaks, I say, like not talking about the Catskill High Peaks, but Mooresville Range, part of Mount Ciantha, Schultz's Peak, and what's the other one? Clum Hill, you could see from there. But beautiful, wide Schoharie Valley. Got awesome views, beautiful day. We got to stand on what they call the dance floor. I explained this in my Instagram post of where this used to be a place of ritual for the Native Americans and the Dutch, the new settlers and stuff like that, where they used to go up, do ceremonies like rain dances, weddings, funerals, just any ceremonies that they could get up there. And it was just flat area. And we talked about being, I said etching, in the stone. And this was an area that is etched by, I'd have to say, I wouldn't say thousands, but hundreds and hundreds of etchings in there where I didn't look crazy, but one of the earliest was 1919.
Wow.
Over 26 years ago. And, I talked about the dance floor, and it's called the dance floor because they had, of course, a glacier came through 15,000 years ago, and glaciers on the bottom tend to have a lot of sand and a lot of stone. So apparently this just kept moving back and forth and etched this stone to make a flat surface, kind of like pancake, just kept going and, made it such a flat area, perfectly flat. And you can see the striations leading from going this, from the north to the south. I'm pretty sure it was a Laurentide glacier that went down through the Schoharie Creek. And fantastic spot. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a far drive for you. It's it's got to be 2.5.
Yeah. To do a 1.5 mile hike. I don't think so.
Yeah. I could only imagine. So, yeah, but it was a beautiful day. Awesome weather, beautiful sunshine all around. We got to just watch birds and chickadees go by and just the etchings. I tried to, once again, I tried to look for a little bit deeper dates, but I saw 1919 on there. And I'm guessing earlier, of course, than that is probably etched in there. And on the way out, we got to do some bald eagle spotting. That area, the Schoharie Creek area, the Schoharie Valley is very, very rich with bald eagles. And we saw 3 mature bald eagles and 1 immature bald eagle. I got good pictures of them. One of them was flying over, and then the 2 mature bald eagles were in their nest. I'm guessing they were just sitting over the eaglets. Maybe I don't know if the eaglets have hatched yet. I'm guessing they have because it's been warmer out, but I'm not quite sure. And then the other was an immature one that we pulled into a parking area, and then we look around, and I thought it was like a Cooper's hawk or something, a red-tailed hawk. And I look up, and it looked down at me, and I can see that beak was definitely different than a hawk. And I zoomed in. I had my professional camera, and I zoomed in, and it was an immature bald eagle, and it was so weird, just the colors, weird patterns on the head, and it looked at me, and then it looked around, and then it did the head did the 180, and I was just like, what the hell? Looked back, and then it did like a feather shake, and all these feathers came about. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely an immature bald eagle. It's shedding its layers to become. I don't know how. I would say how immature it was, but it was cool. Bald eagle spotting. If you want, now is the time to go bald eagle spotting. If you want to, we had an awesome. I forgot how the scope was. It was really cool. It was one of those scopes that kind of looked like a portable telescope, so you could get really close. But a lot of the times you could see the nest from the road, and all you saw was the head of the bald eagle popping over the nest to look once in a great while. Fantastic. Magical.
We have a bald eagle family just up the river from the house. And twice a day, one of them will fly over the river out, doing some shopping for food. And we've been here over 10 years. I've yet been able to get a picture of one of them.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and they literally sometimes when you see them go by, they're just, so close, but
Huge.
yeah. But I haven't been able to snap a photo of one of them. So, but that's
Crazy.
fine.
Yeah. It was a great day. So, it looked like you had a great time this weekend. What did you do?
Yeah. So I was hemming and hawing whether to go hike something over 3,500 feet or chip off another segment of trail on that Catskill All Trails Challenge. And because I had done the prior, I think 16 weekends
16.
doing a hike with snowshoes on or hiking on the snow, I opted to do the Hunter Loop out of the end of Spruceton Road. So it was my 9th time doing that hike, going counterclockwise up Southwest Hunter, East Rusk, and Rusk. And one of the things when I double checked my tracks, guess how many times I've now hiked Southwest Hunter?
63.
No, not 63.
You're not Dr. Kudish.
Yeah, it was my 19th time.
Wow.
Up Southwest
That was
Hunter.
my second guess.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I was surprised. I've been up Southwest Hunter that many times, but
Yeah, people hike it 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, well, some people, some people don't really get into it for whatever reason because there is no view. But I just find the hike along the old rail trail or the railroad bed out to Southwest Hunter, I just think that's a really, really scenic stretch. And not all 19 times that I've been to Southwest Hunter have I come or gone via the old railway. So I bushwhacked it from a number of different directions, but it was a pleasant day to go out. Like I said, I started from the end of Spruceton Road. It was windy. The beginning of the day, it was just really, really blue skies. It was just lovely out. I passed a few groups going uphill. One of the people I ran into was Mo, Hike on Guides. Mo had spent the night at Devil's Acre with a couple people that he was doing a little shakedown with because they were going to be setting out to hike the AT, I think he said in a couple weeks. When I ran into Mo, he was in the process of measuring the diameter of a tree.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How the hell do you right on the trail, or were you off trail?
Yeah, right off the trail. It's just as you've climbed out of Diamond Notch or where the bridge is, and you start to make that turn to the
that
east
section. Ooh,
yeah,
beautiful.
So just before you head into the firs up there. So he was doing that. Through that whole part, I mean, there was coming out of the parking area, there was some ice on the old road bed. I would imagine that ice is gone by now, although, well, maybe it's water now and it'll refreeze when the temperatures drop. But there came a point before I bumped into Mo and Company where I even took off my micro spikes and was just bare booting it. Shortly after I ran into him, it was spikes back on time. Kept them on all the way out to Southwest Hunter, then up to Hunter proper. And I think I had them off most of the way down to that turnoff for East Rusk. So I got there. Yeah, I got there. And going up from that junction up to East Rusk, for the most part, I'm going to say the first half, if not 2/3 of the way up, you were kind of like just hiking to avoid the snow patches, because when you got into the snow patch, it could be anything from a few inches deep to up to your knee or deeper. So it was worthwhile to stay away from it. And then eventually, once you got up to that fir ring around the summit of East Rusk, I put the snowshoes on, there was faint signs of a beaten track where the snow was firmer under that, but it wasn't like trenched out because the snow had melted enough where it was the track that others had taken was kind of level with the surrounding area. But, for the most part, I was able to stay on it. When you stepped off it, you would, your snowshoe would go into the snow up to your knee or thereabouts. But East Rusk, I've always enjoyed the summit of East Rusk. I assume you've been there, Stosh.
Oh yeah, it's magical. It feels like it's a little bit more remote than Rusk, like just because of the balsams and firs and stuff. Like it just, I don't know.
Yeah, and you have some older, much larger firs up there, and then you have some fresh growth in there, so you kind of get a nice variety. But it's just got a good feel going through there, and then you continue on your way westward to Rusk, and through that whole saddle, it was just snow nonstop. It wasn't patchy. It was deep in spots, but I was able to stay on the track pretty much, 95% of the way. Got to the summit of Rusk. I see that a few groups had been there earlier that day. So, signed in, made my way down, ran into a group of 3 on my way down. There were nice people, a small family out for a family hike, and then continued my way back to my Jeep and set off to Westkill to pick up my dead rabbit, dead beer.
Nice. Sounds like a good day. A day full of like everything, clear skies, stuff like that. You go up the tower.
I did, and I'll have to say, of all the times I've been up the tower, this time it was moving the most. I mean, you really felt the tower moving back and forth in the wind. Yeah, the wind was kind of ferocious.
Yeah. Tell me about the wind. Yeah.
I mean, like I posted some pictures. If you look at my story from that hike, you might get a moderate sense of the wind velocity. But yeah, definitely in the tower, it was one of those days that you're asking yourself that, gee, if this tower was made over 100 years ago, and that metal's that old, and it's been sitting here for how long? I wonder how much wind force it can sustain, given its age, type of thing. Because I had this like mental image of the tower toppling over as I was going up there to snap a photo of something I've seen a zillion times before.
But then you see, I'm the guy that's like does the Creed song. Can you take me high? And I just want to go higher because I want to feel that wind is just.
Yeah, and maybe I feel the way I did because I don't know the Creed song and I wasn't able to get into that vibe. And so, but it was an interesting experience. Then, as I was done with my tower experience, a young couple, the fellow was from Rochester, the woman was from Albany, and they had come down to hike in the Catskills for the weekend. And so they went up in the tower, and I gave them a little forewarning that it was windy, and they were having fun up there with the wind. When it was blowing it, you would hear them yelling and screaming and carrying on. So I thought I better get the hell out of there before the thing blows down and I have to perform some CPR or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So I moved along. Yeah, but it was, look, it's a great hike. The data, it's about 11.5 miles, just shy of 3,000 feet of vertical. And, it's one of those longer loop hikes, if you will, in the Catskills. You can always cut out the East Rusk experience if you don't want to do that, and or cut out Southwest Hunter. But, it's a nice loop hike. Plus you've got some nice stops afterwards at the Westkill Brewery, Van Duesens, or anything along Route 28 on your way back. So yeah, fun.
And I agree that, even if you have a nice day, I mean, Hunter has the views that are just worthwhile out of everything, because second highest mountain in the Catskills, Fire Tower. What else could go wrong?
Yeah. And there's some nice pull-offs on that hike to also get some views on your way up. So,
John Robb lean too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best views in the Catskills, frankly.
I got to admit, yeah, just looking down that Spruce in the Valley just gives you a sense of it's funny how small the Westkill like the Westkill is, but how big the valley is. You think that the Westkill would be wider, but it's
that's all from the ice moving in, or in large part from the ice moving in. But you know who I just kind of skimmed through it the other day, who did an interesting study on stream migration or meandering in the Catskills, is Danny Davis.
And run into him every weekend.
Yeah, well, I haven't hiked with him in a while because I think he's out of town right now. But he, and I sent you this link, he, with the University of Vermont, they just took a whole bunch of data and AI programming and came up with a model that predicts stream turbidity after rain events. Turbidity is sediment or mud, dirt, whatever, in water. And that's a big issue for municipalities that get their water from a reservoir, is that after a rain event, getting all that turbidity in the water, and then it's if you have a filtration system, it's extra strain on the filtration. If you don't have a filtration system like the city of New York, you have to, control how you draw out of the reservoirs to let that sediment settle. So maybe
this is a good reason for Danny will come on the show again, like I've asked him 200 times.
Well, you got to ask him nice. You have to say pretty please. Maybe
pretty please.
On,
Hey, maybe I'll hike 25 miles with you up a stream. Will that be good enough?
Well, it'd be fun. 25. I don't know if there's there's some interesting hikes that would be long in the Catskills.
You can just do the whole never sink. I mean, that's got to be over 25 miles.
Sure.
That's
cool.
Well, good. Glad you had a good time. So, Catskill news. Volunteer 3500 Club, Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club, Visitors Center, Jolly Rover Trail Crew, Blamey Mountain Fire Tower. They're all coming out with their calendar, so get ready. I know the 3500 Club has a virtual meeting in April, so if you want to look to get with the 3500 Club for the Trailhead Stories, get a hold of me or get a hold of the 3500 Club. Catskill Trail Crew just had a great article in the Catskill Canister about their trail crew, so get out there, volunteer, and Tad and I might join you. Let us know.
Definitely. I'm going to try to hook up with Matt Smith and the trail crew at least once, if not 2 times.
Yeah, I want to get out there when they're doing Seward stuff and just kind of be a bystander and do the brunt work where they cut and I pull the stuff just to see. It's got to be awesome.
The
Swampers.
Yeah, the swamping.
Yeah, Darren White, one of the listeners, he listens to it and we chat all the time. He's looking to become a swamper and then a what do they call the other
Sawyer?
Yeah, Sawyer. He's going to be a Sawyer, so he's already got like authorization to do that. So I don't know how they go through that, but he's going to be a Sawyer soon. So
yeah, well, we heard Matt Smith gave the whole rundown on what it takes to go through the training and the testing and get your credentials.
Looks fun.
Right down to telling us what type of chainsaw is the preferred one to have. I forget it was the 18-inch model or the 16-inch,
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Crazy stuff. So how about weather forecasts? What are we looking at this weekend? So Friday, I don't know if this, I'm going to, let me refresh this because I just saw that and I was just like, oh yeah, thank God. Oh no. Well then, did you know that we are supposed to be getting a snowstorm coming Thursday, Friday?
Not surprising.
Okay, so Thursday going into Friday, heavy snow. This is from the summit of Lone Mountain. So we're looking at Lone Mountain, heavy snow, 6 inches of snow Friday morning AM.
Wow, 6 inches. Jeez.
Yeah. That's what it says on the mountain weather forecast. So 6 inches and then 0.4 inches of snow showers on Friday afternoon. Nighttime, it looks to be clear, a high of 34 at night, low of 9 degrees with wind chill. Saturday looks to be some clouds with a little bit of light snow, accumulations up to 0.2 inches, a high of 34, a low of -9 at night with the wind chill with 35 mile per hour winds.
Yeah, so look at Friday though on Slide Mountain. It's saying 60 mile an hour winds. Friday morning through midday on Slide. I was actually thinking of taking off work on Friday and go hiking.
That's going to be breaking trail.
What do you think? Well, if you get up there early enough, you can get before the storm and then bring your toboggan and go down in the toboggan.
But why does Friday show or slide show only 0.4 inches?
That's the midday. I see it. It shows Thursday night 3 inches, Friday morning 6. Right.
Oh, okay. Now it's updated. Okay. Yeah. So and then you go into Sunday. Yeah, looks like we're going to be getting over 7-8 inches of. Looks like 10 inches of snow within Thursday and Friday, and then coming to Sunday, it says clear, a high of 32 later in the day, but a low of negative 20 in the morning with 35 polar wind gusts and a low of 12. So it looks like this weekend you must be prepared for freaking everything and anything that winter will bring.
Yeah, it's interesting that the winter season closes on Friday.
Yeah,
but we have these Sunday slide mountain ambient temperature 12 degrees, 19 degrees, wind chill negative 20.
Yeah, and that goes up to like 8 degrees.
Yeah, good old spring hiking.
Yeah, right. Never know. I wouldn't call this a storm, but it's a storm. So
yeah,
not crazy. So not something we haven't seen before. So pack anything and everything for the trail this weekend if you plan on going out and getting some peaks. So, all right. So Tad, let's go over the last set of sponsors and then we'll get to you. We'll get to the 420. And that's not weed, by the way.
It isn't? That's what I thought it was. I didn't have to smoke all that weed.
Oh, damn. Yeah, you're right.
Damn. Well, that's okay.
All right. So discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find quality gear, apparel, accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Expert staff are here and help every hiker from beginner to seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenirs and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also, discover the beauty of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and Hudson Valley with Scenic Route Guiding. Our expert guides to ensure a safe, unforgettable hiking experience tailored to your skill level. From breathtaking vistas to hidden gems, or if you're peak bagging, to just simple day hikes, we'll lead you to the best spots and back. Book your adventure today and explore nature's wonders with Scenic Route Guiding. Check them out on all social media platforms. Also, if you mention the podcast, you can get 10% off. Use the code Mountain Lion. Also, if you want to embark on a transformative journey, you should do it with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, and even backpacking. Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit to ascend to new heights of resilience and joy. Apply today on anothersummit.org. So they are doing Spring Forest Ecology Saturday, May 29th at 10 a.m. in Rhinebeck, New York, and Backpacking 101 at April 5th at 9 a.m. in Beacon, New York. Check them out on anothersummit.org. Get a hold of them, and you can hook up with them. All right. So how about we get on to the guest/topic of the night?
Let's go.
So Ted just finished his 420 grid, his grid experience.
Just finished?
Just, right?
No. I finished in November of 22. I think it was November of 22.
Jesus. Well, you sounded like you made it finish this weekend.
No, not this weekend. I did a single season, winter. So.
Oh, now you got
me. So now what do you want to do it different? Let's change topics. Let's do something different.
No. So, Tad, we're going to talk about the 420 grid 101. How about that?
Okay, 420 101.
Okay, so the real question is here that we haven't really gotten a background about you. You've interviewed me and gotten my background. Mm-hmm. So how about a background? I mean, we've sort of gone through your background with like skiing stuff out west and
now
Western
you
New
know
York
my nationalities. I have to say the rest of my background is classified information.
You government or something?
Yeah, I am. I work for Dodgy. Doggy.
Oh.
That's it. Doggy.
Doggy.
Elon's
Ooh.
my immediate report.
I like
So.
that. I like that. So, a little background about yourself, Ted. The full detail, whatever you want.
Okay, whatever I want. So I'm going to just do the important stuff. I've been married for 30 years. Come September, I have 2 amazing daughters, and I enjoy hiking. How's that?
That's it. That's it. So you grew up over in the western part of New York State.
Yeah, I grew up south of Buffalo back then, in the 60s and 70s when I was a youngster. It was, winters were snowy. They were really snowy. I mean, they were so snowy that it's really hard for me to describe to you how snowy it was when I grew up without you thinking I'm completely bullshitting. But it was. I mean, winters were ferocious, as I probably have mentioned before. We would typically start skiing at least a week, if not 2 weeks, before Thanksgiving. And my mother's birthday is in the end of April, and most winters we would ski on my mother's birthday. So, and then when that ski area shut down for the season, we would just start chasing the snowpack northeast and eventually make our way up to Vermont and ski up in Vermont through late May. So I did a ton of skiing growing up.
Now, where you were out west with skiing and such like that, like what were your ski centers and stuff like that? What was like I know it's of course not compared to the Catskills and the Adirondacks. What was there like?
So in Western New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a small ski area by the name of Cockaigne, about 15 minutes down the road from where I lived. And I skied for them. I raced for them. I also skied and raced for a place that's still open, known as Holiday Valley. We also had a place by the name of Wing Hollow. Wing Hollow was a great ski area back then, as were those others too. But I skied a lot at Wing Hollow, Cockaigne, Holiday Valley. There were some smaller areas, but like I said, the one that was just 15 minutes from my house, I would basically, when I was young, I would hitchhike to the ski area and or get rides from people. So I would ski, honestly, in the winter. It was pretty much every day I would ski.
Wow. I mean, 15 minutes away, that's a dream.
Yeah. I would, when I was in high school, I would generally leave high school around 12 noon and ski the rest of the day. And they were open, they had night skiing. So I would ski sometimes, like on weekends, I'd ski from opening to the end of the day, or on weekdays, I'd ski from midday to the end of the day. But I would generally ski every day.
Wow. And what was like the length of the ski run and stuff like that?
So Cockaigne had a vert of just shy of 400 feet. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it had some really good terrain, and it just got a ton of fresh snow. It got more snow than anyone else in the county. And with all that fresh snow came a couple really, really good mogul fields. And then also the same thing over at Holiday Valley. They got less snow. They had more vert, more pitch on some of their runs, and they had some really good mogul fields. So I grew up skiing bumps at Cockaigne, Holiday Valley.
I've actually seen stuff about Holiday Valley, and a lot of people praise that place for staying open as long as they have, and then doing their traditions as long as they have. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Especially being like a small place. It's tough to stay open.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the same owners now, but I remember growing up, I knew the owners, personally friendly with them.
Wow.
So.
Now, did you transition from hiking or skiing to hiking in this, or like, how did that come about?
Well, that's a long story. And if we hadn't spent so much time shooting the shit tonight, maybe I could get into that. So I'm going to blame that on you. But there was, before I started skiing, it just started off going for walks, and walks led to going for hiking and backpacking. But I did spend, before I got my first pair of skis, I spent a lot of my time, particularly in the summer, hiking, backpacking. It was not uncommon for me to go backpacking, as a young adult, like in not even adult, 7th or 8th grade, I'd go on 2-week long trips in the Allegheny area, up in the ADK. Sometimes I look back, having raised 2 daughters, I look back at what I did before I was in high school. And I'm like, wow, my parents let me get away with this stuff. But I'd go on these, for that age, these epic backpacking trips. And that was kind of a staple of my growing up, was backpacking and hiking. My grandmother lived in Lake Placid through 1980. Wow. She and her husband, my grandfather, moved to Lake Placid in 1952, so he could be a bobsledder. He was the oldest. He was the oldest bobsledder in North America. He was number 4 on our World Cup team, and presumably, if he had been younger, he would have been faster. But he was in his 50s at the time, and so he had a slower start than the other guys.
Wow.
They own, for you, any of you Lake Placid fans that know Lake Placid going back a few decades, they owned a place on Station Road known as the Handlebar.
Interested. So so you went all about hiking, and then how did you get down to the Catskills? How did you transition down to the Catskills area?
Well, so where I grew up in southwestern New York, the median household income is under $25,000. And I realized that when I got out of grad school, I had too much student debt to be able to pay off that debt and live comfortably. So I decided I'm going to move to where more money could be earned without putting myself in New York City. So here, where I am now, is about 3 miles from where I moved to when I first moved out to the Hudson Valley. And you've got that perfect blend of downstate income and upstate leisure and activities. So nice. Here I am.
And then you moved over to the Catskills. Did you become like, what got you into the Catskills hiking? Like, did you see the 3,500 Club and be like, oh, let me pursue that?
No. So what got me into Catskill hiking? What got me into Catskill hiking was my daughter, Sophronia. She and I did a lot of hiking around where we lived, at local places, the Gunks, and it essentially, we had kind of hiked everywhere around here, and we had, skied a lot. I got both of my daughters into skiing. We skied quite a bit at Wyndham, Bel Air, Plattekill. And so one day, it was the end of summer, August of 2016, Sophie wanted to go hike in the Catskills. So I told her, put it together, pick a place you want to go hike, and we'll go do it. So we set out on Labor Day weekend, 2016. She decided on hiking Slide Mountain. We went up the Curtis Ormsby Trail. We had so much fun on our way up that we decided to continue on to Cornell. And so we went over to Cornell, turned around, came back. I have a great photo of her standing on that lookout on Cornell looking back at Slide. And so that was our first excursion into the Catskills. And one of the memorable things about that hike is we were on our way down the Jeep Trail from the summit of Slide. And there came a certain point on that hike that I realized later on that it was going to be, when you're at a group hike, something that commonly occurs when you're on a group hike. And that is when you're a few miles from the end of the hike, all you can think about and all you can talk about is
food.
Yeah, where you're going to go and eat after the hike. So we went to the Phoenicia Diner and we got omelets. We had a good time.
So that, I got to admit, that's an unusual approach to Slide Mountain. You go over to Slide for your first time, going up the Curtis Ormsby Trail and then over to freaking Cornell and then back. I don't think very few people do that.
What, go up Slide to Cornell
and then back? Like usually they pursue over to Cornell, Wittenberg, and then back, but not just to Cornell.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that contributed to that. And one part, if you want to know the background to my story, when we did that hike in Labor Day weekend of 2016. I had only been walking for about 5 months. So I was on the recovery from a pretty bad leg injury. So
Yeah,
pushing to Cornell that day was quite painful for me. And I paid for it dearly, but my daughter wanted to hike in the Catskills and I wasn't about to say no. So we did that. And it was, we had a good time. It was kind of like the beginning of all that hiking her and I did in the Catskills and what kind of set me off to eventually get into the grid.
Wow. And then you did, of course, I'm guessing you did the 3,500 first. You got
you have to do the grid. Starts with one round of 35.
True. So what number, do you know what number you are?
So on the Hikers Anonymous list, I think I'm number 61.
What of the 3,500 though?
Oh, of the 3,500, I am 2960.
Oh, nice. I'm before you. Wow. 2829. I got a unique number. I love that number.
2829. What's so unique about that?
2829.
Two sequential numbers.
Yeah. That's cool.
Do you ever play that when you play Lauder? Do you ever play 2829?
I should. Good point. Very good point. So what was your finish on the 3,500 club list?
So my finish on the 3,500 club list was on Wittenberg on Father's Day. And
with Sophie?
No, she actually, it was her sophomore year in college and is a good sophomore, or I guess entering junior year. She wasn't around. So I went off to hike. And I had planned to finish on Wittenberg because my intent was to continue on to Cornell, where was the furthest point out we did on that first hike. So I kind of viewed it as kind of like completing the loop, if you will. And so I went up Wittenberg, went onward, and I have to admit, as I said, that first hike I did, I was recovering from that injury. I was pretty weak. I was in pain. It was kind of a struggle for me to do those two mountains. And so a year and a half plus afterwards, I did Wittenberg. I'm on my way to Cornell. And I say to myself as I'm hiking over there, God, this is taking forever. And I kept hiking and I'm saying to myself, boy, is this really taking forever? And eventually I looked at a map and I thought to myself, where the fuck am I? And so, but I kept going, I kept going. And then I got to these ledges and these ledges looked really, really familiar. And I'm like, where am I? So I pulled out my GPS now to check where I was. And I had gone up and over Cornell without even realizing it.
What?
So, yeah, the Cornell crack, it was nothing. I mean, I'd gone from that first hike where I was, frankly, kind of like schlepping the 2/3 of the way into that hike. And I was just kind of like tagging along my daughter. And then, here I was a year and a half later, just motoring around the mountains and having a good time. So,
wow.
That's that story. We're moving on now. Let's talk about.
How did you get to the grid? Like, did you know about it before then or not?
So the very first hike we did, I remember hearing one hiker talking to another hiker about somebody who was working on their grid. And I wondered what that was. And so that was in the back of my mind. And then somewhere along the way, whether it was in our, getting the list for the 3,500 or reading somewhere, but then I saw that there was this grid thing. Obviously, I wasn't thinking about it at the outset. And I really had no ambition of doing the grid, nor did I think that it would be something that I was capable of doing that first year or two that I was hiking, because, it took me a while to get my strength back. But, there came a point you finish the winter and then you do the 4 seasons. And when you do the 4 seasons, the one thing, if you're going to move on to the grid, you need to think about, because I didn't think about it. So I was, the season ends on the 21st. So you might the next week, still in that month, go and hike the same mountain that you did earlier that month. So you're going to satisfy the 4 season requirement because you're doing that hike in different seasons. but it's in the same month. And so when you go to fill out your grid, you have a duplicate. So I wasn't really all that cognizant of, working everything into doing the grid when I was doing the Four Seasons. So I had quite a few duplicates when I finished the Four Seasons.
Did the Four Seasons comes before the grid? Like your thoughts?
Yeah, so that was, I did the winter, and then I thought, okay, I'll do the Four Seasons, which once you do, the winter, that's one out of the Four Seasons. You take what you have in the remainder of your first round that you didn't use in the winter, and you see where that falls in the other 3 seasons, and then you go and knock off the Four Seasons. And what I did for the Four Seasons is I decided that at least one mountain every hike I would bushwhack, no matter what mountain it was. So if I was doing, Plateau and Sugarloaf, one of them would be a bushwhack, the rest of it could be a trail. But that's one of the necessities for me of doing that was I was doing this mainly solo. And so often it was just easier to park the car and bushwhack to one of the mountains and then hike trail back to it. I also, during that first Four Seasons thing, I did a lot of hitchhiking, bumming rides off of people. So that all came
And this wasn't 20 years ago. This is
no, so this is all, from, I guess, so I finished the first round in 2018, and I don't think I did much hiking the rest of that summer. And I started up again that fall working on the Four Seasons.
But this is not the times of like the 1970s and 80s where everything was hitchhiking. This is like time of where you just be like, oh shit, this is going to be tough.
Yeah, I've done a lot of hiking in the Catskills, and I've also, pre-COVID, I would do a lot of, I'll call it mooching off of people. On your hike back to a parking area, you just strike up a conversation with somebody, and then you just say, hey, I need a ride back to such and such. You okay with that? And so I would get rides back from people.
So with all this like 420 grid, the Four Seasons and stuff like that, it's got to be tough to plan all this. Like this is what where my anxiety kicks in. It's like, I'm going to do this and this, but weather, might kick in, road closures, the seasons, closures. How the hell do you plan all this? Is it just day by day?
Well, yeah, obviously you need to look at the weather right up until the last minute, because that's kind of a controlling factor in terms of whether you're going to finish a hike, whether it's safe to do a hike or not, or even if some hikes aren't, if you get a ton of snow, might not be possible for you to do that hike. So weather is a significant factor in the planning. Another significant factor is if you need a ride or not. So like I said, I would do a fair amount of hitchhiking before COVID. I started doing what I call the bike and hike, where I'd park the Jeep at the end, I'd ride the bike to the beginning of the hike. And so now part of the planning process becomes how easy or difficult the bike ride is going to be. Are you going to build a lot of vertical into the bike ride? Or are you going to try to make the bike ride less vertical so the bike ride is easier and the hike is harder? So that's a factor into it. But I'll say when it comes to the logistics of planning a 420 versus the all trails, the 420 is so much easier. The all trails, man, because you got all this webbing of trails in some spots, with these loops and this, that, and the other thing. It just, that is a big logistical issue, at least for me. And that's one of the reasons where I've gotten to this point where I didn't really think about mapping all these different hikes for the all trails at the beginning. And so I got a lot of these little stragglers that I need to knock off. But the 420, you look at what some people have done with it. There's one woman out there who's done the 420 in a year. Kudos to her. That's a lot of hiking. So that's something, if you're going to try to knock it off in a short period of time, that now becomes a controlling factor in your planning. Whereas my thing was, I wanted to make it interesting as opposed to just doing the same thing over
The same
and
trail over and
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah, although I say that, and yes, I have done the Hunter loop 9 times. Okay, I admit that, but it's a fun loop, and I have hiked those mountains from other approaches. But
Of course, I mean, someone like you with your ambitions and stuff like that, you like, hey, let me take this route up, and there's another one off the list, or we know you being on here so many times that you don't like to take the easy route up.
yeah, well, sometimes let's take Hawkett as an example. If you're going to hike Hawkett 12 times to knock off your grid, don't do all of them from the same direction.
Right? Yeah,
okay?
that's boring.
Yeah, because it not only is it boring, but it's steep. And then in the summer months, you're going to deal with all the nettles. And there's a lot of other, and frankly, more interesting ways to get to the top of Hawkett than starting off of 42. So,
Well, let's say freaking Bear Pen. Like, everybody is just going to go up from Route 3. No, there's several.
Yeah. Bear Pen has some interesting approaches on trail as well as off trail. And there's some really interesting stuff to experience on both Bear Pen and Fly by not going the common way. But then what the problem is, you fall into this tendency that you're going to have what I call the production hikes, where you're just going to bag the peaks the easy way you can. So you do drive up Route 3, you go and you knock off Bear Pen, Fly, you do Hawkett, and maybe Rusk. Okay, you do those 4 hikes in one day, and you do it all the shortest and quickest way you can get done. So,
but then you plan another hike that will be more interesting.
Yeah.
More challenging.
And that's where you can either just hike to those summits to say that you hike to those summits and do it the same way every time, or you can get around and see different things and have some fun. And so there came a point in time where you've done what seemed to be the more challenging hikes, and you want to do some interesting hikes. And so one of the things I did is I got Mike Kudish's book with his map. Yeah, with his map of all the old growth areas. And then so I just started to plan my hikes to take me through those areas.
Sounds like a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it worked for me.
And now, how do you track all this? Wait, for a quick question, how long did it take you? From day one, so you're talking about Slide Mountain, to when you finished a 420, you said 2018?
So I went from, first hike was 2016 to 2022, so that's 6 years.
I mean, it's not a year, but I mean, it's your time.
So there was some periods there I didn't do much hiking at all. Like in 2020, when COVID hit, there was a long stretch where I didn't do any hiking. Then my daughter Sophronia came home, and she wanted to take a big chunk out of her first round, and so we hiked up a storm that late summer and fall. We actually did some backpacking in the Cats during that time. So it's not like I was out, trying to get this done in any short period of time. And it's my words of encouragement to anyone who wants to do the 420 is focus on the journey and not finishing the list.
Right.
So, because finishing the list, it's just kind of like, this brief moment when you're like, wow, yeah, I'm done with this. And then you finish that hike and it's over. Whereas the journey, is something that you should do in a way that you can really cherish it. So
instead of saying, you've summited Plateau the same amount of times from Royingkill because it's Mink Hollow because it's the shortest route, you can say that I approached it from the southern side 4 times. I approached it from, over on 214 2 or 3 times, and then I approached it from Mink Hollow, but then I bushwhacked up the ridge on the northern side,
Yeah.
Instead of saying, how many times did you summit Plateau? Oh, I just went from Mink Hollow 12 times.
Yeah, it's just in certain respects, you can do the same hike multiple times and it's a different hike each time. And other times it's the same hike. it depends on a lot of different things. And this is where I just go back to whatever floats your boat. I mean, for some people, it's more about the effort they put in to, have more of a endurance, high output type of hike, and that's what they're into. And then other people, it's more of I'm just going to go out and hike this one mountain, and then next week I'll hike another mountain. I'm not trying to do the 9. I'm just doing 1 or 2 mountains at a time. And I've hooked up with some people, and that's been their approach to doing the 420, is to just take little sips of it. And then there's other people that are gulping it, and whatever puts a smile on their face. Yeah. So that's my view.
How did you track this stuff?
Well, that's where I was just doing it on a homemade, I'm not going to say spreadsheet. It was really a Word document, but I tried to organize the mountains in logical groups, that would go together for hiking purposes. And I filled that out and kept filling it out. And then there was some point in time where I transferred all my data to Tom Martone's site, Hikers Anonymous. And that worked out really well for me. So,
wow. Amazing. Now, did you track this through your phone? Do you have a GPS system that you do this with?
Yeah. So I started off with no GPS. Then I got a Garmin unit, and eventually I went with Gaia on my iPhone for tracking while I'm out on tracking and navigation out on the trail. But at that time, when I was, becoming experienced and more versed in bushwhacking and planning bushwhacks, I was using Cal Topo.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did not have a phone app at that time. So I was using the Gaia program, but Cal Topo, you could just really make some great maps. And that was part of the fun during, the initial rounds, was just sitting down with Cal Topo and plotting out these various bushwhacks and then printing off the maps, bringing them along and having fun.
Yeah, and then seeing your progress on Cal Topo is pretty neat too, because you can do, each hike can be a different color and stuff like that, and it's really neat.
Yeah, at some point I want to consolidate all my tracks on something like that, and then just send off the data file to one of those online photo printing places, and have them print like almost a poster size.
It looked like a spider web, like it just did mush.
Yeah, my own personal heat map. I know the DEC is looking at heat maps of, people's Strava activity, and I want Tad's Catskill heat map.
They're going to hire you.
Wall. Yeah.
You're going to be Danny's new executive assistant or something like that, and you're going to be like, all right, we need the info on this trail over here. Go do it. Got it. So did you have any difficult, crazy times when you were out there? I mean, breaking trail, of course, is difficult, and I know you do solo a lot. So solo is I gotta admit, one of those. It's a tough time, especially when you're out there in the winter.
Yeah, so I'll say the most difficult hikes were probably the early ones, particularly my first round, because in part I was still recovering from that injury. And I was acquiring, my knowledge or experience base. So the first round, there was one hike where I set out to do Big Indian and fir for the first time. It had snowed heavily during the week, and I set out, wasn't prepared for as much snow that I encountered. And I had, mentally in my head, set a turnaround time. If I had not reached a certain elevation by 11 o'clock, it was time to turn around. And I didn't. I mean, I was just going so slow. So I bailed, and it was the right thing to do. Later on, when I was up at Big Indian and Fur, a month or so later, I saw that nobody signed in that day. So it wasn't just me that didn't make it that day.
I mean, I have this later on that you was those one of the times you didn't ever summit? Like, did you have many of those times?
Yeah, so it was Big Indian and Fur. So Big Indian and Fur have always held a special place for me because I remember that first time to go and bag them. They bagged me. I also one time bushwhacking Sugarloaf. I didn't put enough reconnaissance into my approach that I was going to take to bushwhack Sugarloaf, and I remember. So I was driving down the road looking at Sugarloaf. I'm saying to myself, there's no fucking way I'm going to be able to get up this today. And sure enough, man, I got to this one spot that
winter or not winter?
It was in the fall. It was in October. I was doing the Four Seasons at the time. And I was just saying to myself, I looked around as much as I could. Since then, I've been able to get up that way, maybe because I'm smarter and more patient. But yeah, that day, I forget what elevation it was I ran into. I refer to it as the El Capitan of the Catskills.
Let me ask you this: what was your approach? Did you from the split? Did you just go straight up?
Kind of, yeah. So,
I think we might have hit the same spot, buddy. I did the same thing.
Yeah, I was probably, I don't know, 50, 75 yards from success that day.
Oh, okay.
But
so
I'm
I was
not
a little
telling
bit
you
further
that,
away from that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was much further from the split, but the deal breaker is it was such a big talus slope up there. I mean, going back and forth and trying to hunt for a way up was so slow going. And my concern is that maybe if I had made it up 25 or 50 feet vertically, and then if I ran into another problem, what was I going to do? There was no going down from there. And so actually after that, I started carrying a rope so I'd be able to get down if I had gone up, something like that. So,
wow.
So that was one that beat me. And then there was one time I set out to do an interesting bushwhack of Wyndham and the Blacks, and I underestimated how much snow had blown in there over the week. And I made it to Wyndham, but I had to bail on the rest of the hike because it was so exhausting getting to the summit of Wyndham that day. I kind of felt like Moses trying to go up to get the tablets. If you remember that, it was just brutal. So
I mean, there's you admit there's times that you've had to bail, and then that your plans have not succeeded.
Only on this podcast, which we're not airing. Yes, there's times I pulled the plug. So
did you ever do any weird? I mean, I know you have because you have actually recently talked about it. Some crazy combinations for the grid. So you said you did bear pen and fly, and then you went over and did hawk it.
Yeah, well, are those really combinations? Those are.
It's a day hike.
Well, but also you can get from hawk it to fly and bear pen.
You just got to go on private property.
Well, or you just do a little side sloping to get around it.
True.
Okay. So, I mean, there's that. So a crazy combo. I don't know how crazy it is, but Westkill to hawk it, that might qualify.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
So Westkill, North Dome, Westkill, St. Anne's, North Dome, Sherrill, and Hawkett. So, and that's a hike where I dropped the Jeep at Hawkett, rode out not to the end of Spruceton because you can cut some miles off by whacking up Westkill. And it's actually a really interesting approach to Westkill. And then you just take the trail all the way over to North Dome. Back then, the herd path wasn't so well, beat from North Dome over to Sherrill and down. But that was a good hike.
That's a pretty crazy combination, I got to admit. Was that the bike and hike?
That was one of them.
Okay, that's nice.
One of many.
Yeah. I was going to say anything else that I mean, a lot of people do the whole. I think for me is crazy is the whole Wyndham Blackhead range. I think is
from the DEP lot.
Yeah. So you're doing.
Yeah, it's a very doable hike as long as you have the endurance. There is in the bushwhack up to Wyndham. There's nothing really that technical. I mean, it's all avoidable, easily avoidable. and I did the bushwhack. I almost did that exact hike not so long ago, but I just opted out of it. But I still did all 4 mountains. But the key to that hike is after you do Thomas Cole, continuing on the trail and coming down between Thomas Cole and Camel's Hump, because you avoid the steep talus section of Thomas Cole.
That's a pretty crazy thing. So.
And it's better that's coming off of Thomas Cole is better with deep snow.
Yes.
Because it's almost like skiing downhill.
Yeah, and you're familiar with skiing. So what's your favorite?
Well, that's a hard thing to say. What's my favorite? A long time ago, I thought of each one of these mountains as like being your kid, and you can't have a favorite kid, right? You just appreciate each one of them for their subtleties and their nuances. So there is no favorite mountain, if that's what you're asking. There can't be.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be like Tom Hoos and say I can't stand Bear Pen and Vlaai. I have some pretty fond memories of hiking the 2 of them.
Plus, the history is just absolutely phenomenal with those 2. Like you can't. So, like, what do you have a certain viewpoint or stuff like that? I know you've been to many viewpoints that have the off trail and stuff like that. That just continues to be like, God damn. I know all fire towers are like that, but like Westkill has that.
So I can't tell you where they are. I can take you to them.
Oh, so you're going to be getting some messages soon. So
yeah, you have to hike with me to find those spots. Friends.
Tad's going to quit this, and he's going to start his own guiding service.
Not for hire. I'll leave that to Mo and company.
Yeah, Mo and Greg and all of them. So, any advice for people that are going to pursuing the 420s?
Yeah. So my advice is, don't do it to finish the list. Do it to enjoy the list. And you think about how long you want to take doing it. Some people, their goal is to say they did it in a year. And if that's what's going to make you happy, then plan to do it in a year. That was not my goal. And knowing that it wasn't my goal, I think one of the better things I did is structure my depletion of that list by saving interesting hikes for, that last year. So you didn't have spend your last year just hiking duds, doing
oh man,
or, not my favorites. They all sort of are. And I was fortunate enough to have some great hikes. I even did some nice hikes in the rain. I guess that was part of the planning is, figure that there's certain hikes you can do in bad weather. And so save them for like a rainy day, bring an umbrella, do a trail hike, do a very durable trail hike. So you're not moving around a lot of dirt. And, the best advice is just be prepared and have fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't have any thought of doing the 420 grid or something like that. I just like to hike, but who knows? So
the benefit. So after I finished the 420, you're kind of like, well, what's next? Are you like Tom Martone or others where you just go on to the next list? And I don't know what Tom's up now, but he's, done thousands of Catskill mountains. So, there's a period of time where I just drifted around. I started with the Catskill 100 highest, and you just find yourself, in my opinion, hiking a lot of what I'm going to really call ho-hum mountains that have been logged out. There's really nothing all that interesting about some of them. And there's other far more interesting things to do out there. So I eventually started to do the All Trails Challenge, which I highly recommend. Just emphasizing that you need to put some thought into trying to not leave like I did is some of these stragglers towards the end. But I will say I have started to compile a list of, my 840, I guess it would be, that I'm working on now, my second 420. And it just forces you to get around. Sometimes I find myself asking myself, which hike should I do this weekend? And now I have a list to go to and see what I want to knock off. The other cool thing is to go do what they call blue lining and hike some of the the streams and rivers.
Only if you're super experienced. That's a whole nother.
It's got to be the right time of year for you to do it. And you need, if you're going to do it in the winter, you need the right equipment. But if you've done a 420, I'm going to assume that you've got the experience and the equipment to go out and do some blue lining. So,
yeah, I mean,
and if you want some tips, get a hold of me or somebody else who's gotten around the Catskills.
Yeah, and I will have the 420 grid, the Hikers Anonymous thing on here, the link to show people about the 420 grid. Right? Is that the only place that does it, or is?
Well, actually, in the Catskill Mountain Club, they have a little different list than the Hikers Anonymous list. For each of them to have 35 mountains on the list,
they exclude Round Top and
South Double Top.
South Double Top, okay.
Yeah, they have 2 other trailed mountains on their list, and I have finished the Catskill Mountain Club list. I just haven't sent it in because I don't know. I have all these patches that I've accumulated from hiking now, and I don't put them on my pack because
just donate them.
Yeah, it's not about the patches. It's it's about that experience.
Yeah, exactly. And
the journey.
That's why you don't do just one or the same trail over and over again. You are pursuing these from all different directions. You're checking out different stuff. Like just hearing you talk about like Dr. Kudish's book and be like, oh man, I could approach Twin from this area, and then get a whole different view of the forest.
Yeah, we've all been up Big Indian, and if you go the traditional way up Big Indian, you're really missing out because there's a great hemlock forest along the Biscuit Brook that gets you to Big Indian. So
you're talking about what is it? It's not Hayes Mountain that you go over.
No, you're basically you're taking the trail out of Frost Valley, and you're going to continue past the turnoff to go up Fur, and before you really start climbing the hole between Big Indian and that little no-name knob between Big Indian and Double Top, you're going to cross the Biscuit Brook and head up that slope. It almost takes you into the saddle between Big Indian and Fur, but you go through. It's not as big as where the Black Forest is in the Catskills. Wildcat.
Oh yes. It's the northern, the southern side of 42.
Yeah. So that's a huge hemlock forest, right? This one's not as close to that in size, but it's rather generous, and it just makes for an interesting variation on a hike that you're going to do 12 times if you're doing the grid. So in the right, I mean, sometimes I've wanted to do that hike and the water crossing has just been too high to get it done. And then there's times where you're going up there and you can just make that split and hit Big Indian early. Yeah. So, and then there's other ways to get to Big Indian. Some now you can't get to because the Goulds making that one pitch off limits, but hiking that out of from where the lean-to is up to Big Indian was an interesting hike, an interesting way to get there. So
there's very many interesting ways to get there.
Yeah.
Everywhere, as you said. So hopefully people have been influenced by you to do the 420 grid in a special way. So I'm glad congratulations on finishing it in 2022. I don't know how I thought you just finished it.
I'm just like I'm like your internet spouse. You know nothing about me. You never pay attention to me when I talk. You don't know any of my wants, my needs.
True.
None of that stuff. So
True. All right. So thank you for joining us. Well, that sounds weird. Thank you for joining me, Tad, and talking about your grid experience. I hope you've had a great time. And
it was fun. I hope to be back on the show again real soon. This was a blast. Do I get a T-shirt or a patch?
Get a big high five. Done.
I want a hug.
Oh,
Come on, bring it on, brother.
Well, bring it on. All right. What about post hike brews and brights?
like I said, I hit up the Westkill to pick up this Dead Rabbit dry. I guess the emphasis is on dry Irish stout. So that's what I did this weekend.
Oh, nice. I didn't really go anywhere. No, I didn't. Yeah, because I was in Vroman's Nose. We went through Cobleskill, and that's about it. So awesome. So once again, thank you for talking about your 420 grit experience, Tad. Thank you to the monthly supporters and the monthly sponsors for donating to the show. Really appreciate you guys believing in the show. Thank you to everyone who has donated so far, and thank you everyone who is still listening to the show. I thank you very greatly, but I think Tad does as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So soon.
Hope to see you out on the trail, folks.
Yeah. Let us know if you want to get out. This weekend I won't be out, unfortunately. I have to work. We're going to be working on Saturday and Sunday, so got to do what you got to do. But hopefully next Tuesday I will be out with my nephew. He is going to be going. He has a week off, and then he's going to be a New York State Trooper. So he has a long time of craziness. So I'm going to take him out. He wants to go hiking. I don't know where we're going to go hike, but I'm trying to think of something good. Maybe Hunter, get him some Fire Tower View if it's good, because that's a good push. He's going to push me. He's 6'8", and his stride is 8 times the size of me. So it's going to be fun. So
what happened to you? How come he got the good genes and you got shorted? You got shorted on these genes.
I don't know. He's a handsome dude.
Oh,
so.
yeah? Wow.
Yeah, so he's gonna hopefully we'll have a good time. So I'll be out on Tuesday. So if anybody wants to go out Tuesday, meet us wherever we're going, let me know. And Tad, you'll probably be out this weekend. So
for sure. Can't wait. Gonna hike that fresh snow. Just got to figure out where. Got to look at my list. It's all about the list.
It is all about the list. All right, so
Vly and Bear Pen.
over and over and over, same spot. All right, so have a good night, Tad.
You too, buddy.
We'll see you next week.
Do we have a guest? Do we have a guest next week?
We might.
Okay.
We'll see you next week, buddy.
Hey, everyone. I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.